Hey everybody, my name is Liza Weale and I'm a senior consultant with mbaMission, and I'm here to chat with you about NYU Stern's essay questions for this year. So let's dig right in. There's actually 3 questions, so I'm going to deal with them one by one. The first question, essay 1, it deals with professional aspirations, and you have 500 words maximum to deal with the question. So there are 2 core components. What are your short and long-term career goals, and how will the MBA help you achieve them? Seems simple enough, right? But there is some strategy involved, so let's talk about it. Here's the scoop with this question. Even though you only see 2 parts of this question, what are your short and long-term career goals, and how will the MBA help you achieve them, there are actually 3 elements to think about as you're working on this essay. Obviously, per the question, you want to be thinking about where you're going in terms of your profession. You also, per the question, want to be thinking about why the MBA, specifically why the Stern MBA, even though they say why the MBA, you need to be thinking about Stern's MBA, will help you get there. What isn't asked in this question, but is an important piece of the work that you need to do in order to answer it, is where have you been? Okay, so we'll talk about each of these 3 elements in more detail. So where are you going? What they want to know, and they've broken it down, they're looking for both your short and long-term goals. When you're thinking about your goals, your career goals, you want to make sure that they're logical. Do they make sense? And I'm just going to give a little preview here. Do they make sense based on where you've already been? Do they follow? Is it a path that the school can get behind and understand why recruiters on the other side are going to find you an attractive candidate? Are they ambitious? Remember, you're targeting business school. This is a big, big move. NYU Stern is a great school, and it's going to be transformative for you. So you do want to make sure that those goals are, it's not just a step change, but they're really ambitious and bold. Not too bold, but yet they are showing a clear ambition for where you want to end up and the kind of impact that you want to have. And they also need to be authentic. The reader needs to believe that they're true to you. So what I always say when people say, well, what career goals should I say? I say, well, what do you want to do? Because usually the answer is in there. So again, logical, the one other thing to note with logical, the short and long term, the short term should prepare you for your long-term career goals. It makes sense. This is one long argument in terms of the way each of these pieces of the puzzle, these 3 elements, are connected. So let's talk about the next one, where you've been. I put this in brackets because, again, Stern isn't explicitly asking for this, but in order to figure out if your goals are logical, you have to think about where you've been, right? So this is your past experience. And you do want to make sure that that your goals are relevant to where you've been. Though the question does not explicitly ask for this background information, it might very well be pertinent and relevant and important for you to include in the essay. Because if it's going to help the school believe that you have a shot of reaching those long-term goals, or believe that your passion for these goals are real, it's real, or that you've got some skills that are relevant, you do need to include some of your past. Even if it's really quite brief, but if it helps contextualize those goals, you want to include it. So you want to think about what's relevant in your past to where you're going. You could also use it to highlight an accomplishment that proves skills or showcases excellence. Remember, this is not mandatory. It requires judgment, and this shouldn't just be a long story of your past, unless, or never should it be all that, but you want to zero in on those elements that really are critical to understanding where you're going. Okay, so that's the where you've been. The third piece of it is how NYU Stern connects the 2. Notice that the question says, how will the MBA help you achieve them? Guys, I want you to read that again, but this time I want you to read it and say to yourself, how will this NYU Stern MBA help you achieve your career goals? Okay, even though it does not say the NYU Stern, I want you to insert those words in your mind when you're working on this question. That's critical. Because this answer, this part of your essay, it really needs to be specific to Stern, not just any MBA. That's not where you're applying. You're applying to Stern. You want to be really explicit on not only the what, which is usually pretty obvious, but also the why. What do I mean by that? it's easy to say that you're, really interested in joining, say, Stern's consulting course, and you're excited, you're excited for that opportunity. But you haven't told them why, okay? Anybody can say that they're interested in joining the consulting corps, to get a hands-on experience while you're in school on consulting projects. But you need to make it specific to you and be very explicit as well. So for example, let's say you're coming from an internal ops role and you're targeting a consulting role afterwards. So you might, you want to be explicit on why do you need this. Most of my projects to date have been internally focused. I see business school and NYU Stern's consulting core program as an ideal opportunity for me to get hands-on experience and client exposure before I go even into my summer internship. Don't get, that might not at all be you, don't worry, but if what you see, what you can hopefully can see is how I gave them more information about me as I was telling them about what resources at Stern I'm going to take advantage of, okay? That part's critical. And as when you're working on your essay, when you reread it, many, many times I'm sure, but when you reread it, I want you to make sure it's telling the school as much about you as it is about Stern. If you're just listing out things about Stern, they still don't know why you are a great candidate or why and how Stern will help you specifically reach your goals, okay? So avoid pandering, avoid complimenting the school, focus on, the tip I always give is imagine yourself at school, imagine yourself running from club to club to project. Which ones will you be running to and fro from? Those are the ones to focus on in this essay, or most excited about running to and fro. Those are the ones to capture in this essay and why you need them. Okay, and then one last thing, just in terms of the 500-word maximum, again, in general, this essay is a typical personal statement or goal statement essay. And in general, I advise roughly spending about a third on each of those elements of the equation, the where you're going, the where you've been, and how NYU Stern connects the two. Because Stern doesn't ask explicitly about where you've been, I might, make that a little smaller. I'm not going to do all the math right now, but, so a quarter on where you've been, and then the remainder, which if you guys are studying for the GMAT, you'll figure it out faster than I will. The remainder you can split across the where you're going and how Stern connects the two, okay? But you do most likely want to touch on that where you've been, even if it's just a little. All right, guys, let's move to the second one. So the second one is the personal expression. The first one was professional aspirations. This one is personal. This one is also known as Pick Six. I'm going to read it. It's long. Describe yourself to the admissions committee and your future classmates using 6 images and corresponding captions. Your uploaded PDF should contain all of the following elements: a brief introduction or overview of your Pick Six, no more than 3 sentences, 6 images that help illustrate who you are, a 1-sentence caption for each of the 6 images that helps explain why they were selected and are significant to you. And this is just a note, your visuals may include photos, infographics, drawings, or any other images. Your document must be uploaded as a single PDF. The essay cannot be sent in physical form or be linked to a website. Okay? All right. So this personal expression, the Pick Six, it might freak you out. I often get folks that feel so much more comfortable about an essay, and then they discover Pick Six, and they say, I don't even know if I want to apply to NYU anymore, which is crazy. I see this as so much low-hanging fruit with this awesomely creative question. So remember, I'm going to tell you how to think about it. Keep this in perspective. It might feel a little disorienting when you first read it, but think about things that all the visuals you're looking at all day long, whether it's social media, whether it's infographics, whether it's using an emoji to a friend. These are images, and if you're either a partaker in some way or another of social media, just think of it that way, and hopefully things that will just ease the pressure. This is not a photo contest at all. This is an opportunity to let the schools know who you are. It's just a different medium than a written essay, okay? So hopefully that helps a little bit, keeps it in perspective. So what do you want to do? You want to think about what you've already conveyed through the rest of your application and what else you want the admissions office to know about you. I think this is really a special opportunity. Business school is very much about your professional aspirations, but let's face it, if we were just work, we'd all be boring. So, and a lot of times we don't have the opportunity to really show schools the other sides of us. So think about the things that are important to you, and realize what they already know about you and what else might be missing. My next bullet, be creative in thought. What do I mean there? Well, one, I want you to just really be expansive. This can be pictures you've taken, or they might actually be pictures somebody else have taken. Maybe you're in the pictures, but maybe not. Maybe they're favorite locations. Maybe they're favorite trinkets that you have. It can be absolutely anything. I mentioned an emoji. Maybe there's a go-to emoji you have that has special significance. It could be anything. But if the biggest thing when I say be creative in thought is be expansive and not just to assume this is a picture of you smiling at 6 state capitals. Could be. It could totally be that. But it doesn't need to be. So think broadly and creatively about the pictures or the drawings or the infographics that you want to include. Okay. And then lastly, I'll say this now. Be creative in thought does not mean you have to be perfect in execution. Again, this is not a photo contest, so don't feel like you have to suddenly take photo lessons to start taking awesome, amazing photos. The goal of this is for the school to get to know you. Once you've selected the photos, you do want to be, or the images, you do want to be strategic in that caption and even the original 3 sentences to describe it. Maybe you're using the caption to augment the, why a certain image is important to you. Or maybe it's actually to connect all the images. There are different ways that you can use that caption. Again, if you're showing a picture, let's say, of a dog, you might say, my dog Spot. That's a little limited. So what you might want to do is build a little bit more of this. Spot's my most faithful companion and has been at my side since I was 8 years old. I don't know, whatever it might be. But do be strategic and make sure that whatever you're adding to that or including that caption, it's still giving the school a chance to better get to know you. And then remember the purpose, right? So even though I said be creative in thought and said, okay, it doesn't just have to be photos and, you should feel comfortable with social media. At the same time, this isn't just like a series of pictures of you having a really good time with friends, unless that is an important part that you need to communicate. The schools are trying to assess who you are. The Stern is trying to assess who you are and trying to understand the sort of leader that you're going to be, the values that you're going to bring to the school, the kind of teammate you might be, the classmate, what sort of activities you might get involved in. All this to say, use your judgment in revealing who you are. But again, remember the purpose that it's all about getting to know you, not to prove some skills. So by the way, if you're not an artist who draws, don't start trying to draw these just to, for credits on, for points on getting, for drawing, because you won't get those points. Okay? All right, guys, you should feel great about Pick 6. I think it's one of my favorite questions because it really lets each individual shine through this process. All right, one more question. This one I just want to touch on really briefly, but it's the additional information. Note, it says optional, and I do mean it's optional, so does the school. We have 250 words maximum to handle this question. Please provide any additional information that you would like to bring to the attention of the admissions committee. This may include current or past gaps in employment, further explanation of your undergraduate record or self-reported academic transcripts, plans to retake the GMAT, GRE, IELTS, or TOEFL, or any other relevant information. All right, so just a few quick sound bites on this. If it is an issue, so let's say your GPA is weighing on you and you need to explain it, or you have a gap of certain amount of time in your resume. First off, do not worry. People find success in this process, even if they have something that might look like an issue or a red flag on in their past. The important thing is to own it. Just be direct in explaining it. whether it is, during, there were layoffs at my company. During the time off, I spent my time regrouping, working on my resume, practicing my interviewing skills, and volunteering at a local soup kitchen. Just own it. Don't worry about getting defensive. Don't worry about trying to defend everything. Own it, be direct, explain it, move on. Okay, that's one reason you might use this. Another reason you might use this is something in your application could cause confusion. Clear it up. Maybe there are maybe you studied abroad and the credits transferred in an odd way on your transcript. All right, just use a sentence or two in the optional essay to explain what's going on. I generally say if there are going to be questions on anything, it can be the mundane, like what I just mentioned. That's not a red flag at all. But just make it so much easier. Make it easier for the admissions officer to get through your application, know the situation, and move on. That's all. So if there's something that can cause confusion, clear it up. All right, so but what if you have neither of the above, right? You don't have any, quote, issues, you don't have any confusion out there. Then the big thing I'd ask you, is it really necessary? This is not an opportunity to try to jam in a 500-word essay that you wrote for another school into Stern. No, you only have 250 words. That's like a paragraph. If there is something, more can certainly be less. Most applicants will not use that essay. So most of you who are listening to this will not use this essay. There are certain scenarios where you might need to use this essay or might want to use this essay to really capture something you haven't been able to capture elsewhere, but is critical to understanding who you are. I would really push you hard. If something's so critical, I think it would probably be in the Pick 6, but that's just me. You might have reason that there has to be some explanation, an amazing achievement that you did as a child or something, which again, I don't think I would advise. You really remember that this, I want you to remember this is a exercise in strategic communication. The admissions officers have tons of applications to get through. If you've done a great job in all the other components of this essay, or this application, you don't need to be using the optional essay to further toot your horn. There could be reasons you need to address something and tell them here. I'm not saying no way, no, never, but really ask yourself, is this critical and can I not fit it into the rest of the application? Okay, maybe I'll mention it here. But my point at the bottom, more can certainly be less, especially with this essay. Okay? All right, guys. So those are the 3 essays that you're going to be facing if you're applying to NYU Stern. Just a few more things that I would encourage you to do if you haven't. Number 1, for that professional aspirations essay, we have a great guide, a personal statement guide that really breaks down those 3 different components that need to be addressed in a personal statement. So visit our website, download that guide. It's super helpful. The other thing I would say is if you haven't signed up for a free consultation with us, do so. It's a 30-minute session with me, with one of my peers, with whoever you'd like to chat with on the team. We've got an amazing team here at mbaMission, and the agenda is all yours. Whatever you want to talk about, whether it's what should I choose for my Pick 6, or should I apply to Stern? Do I have what it takes to get in? Any of these questions, sign up for a chat for us. That's, I think, it for me on NYU Stern. I'll be wishing, I have one other little point on the additional information, if I can just throw it in there. Stern mentioned something about you can, and I'm going to flip back 2 more things, that you can mention plans to retake the GMAT, the GRE, the IELTS, or TOEFL in the optional essay. I mention this because this is one of the few schools that calls this out, like, if you're going to be taking the test again, tell us. So if the GMAT's not quite where you want to be, the GRE isn't quite where you want to be, any of these tests, then put a date on the calendar of when you're going to take it and tell the school. So just use this to your advantage if you still think you have another try, so you have some more gas in the tank in terms of taking one of the tests. All right, that's it for real this time, guys. I wish you good luck. You guys will be great. Do reach out to us if we can help access our resources and contact us for a free consultation, or if you want support and partnership throughout the process. All right, thanks, guys.